Is alfalfa hay secretly making horses hot? Or has the horse world misunderstood it for generations? From elite Olympic dressage barns to backyard pleasure horses, alfalfa hay has become one of the most debated feeds in the entire equine industry. Some horse owners swear by it because they believe it builds muscle, supports performance, improves body condition, and helps horses thrive, while others avoid it completely because they blame alfalfa for hyperbehavior, dangerous energy levels, weight gain, digestive issues, and even long term health problems. But here's the truth: most people talking about alfalfa do not actually understand what it is. Alfalfa is not just another type of grass hay. In fact, alfalfa is not even a grass at all. It is a completely different kind of plant with a history that stretches back thousands of years across ancient civilizations, trade routes, wars, agriculture, and eventually the modern horse industry. So, what exactly is alfalfa hay? Where did it come from? Why did ancient civilizations value it so highly? Why do so many elite horse barns still feed it today? And why do some riders avoid it completely? Those are the questions we are going to answer in this video. And once you understand where alfalfa comes from, why humans cultivated it for centuries, and why horses respond to it so differently than other forages, you start to realize why this hay became one of the most important feeds in the world. Today, we are diving deep into the full story of alfalfa hay. We're going to talk about what it is, where it originated, why it became so valuable, why some horses thrive on it while others struggle, and why few feeds in the horse world create more arguments than this one. Whether you ride dressage, own a retired trail horse, compete in show jumping, or simply love learning about horses, chances are you have heard someone passionately defend alfalfa or passionately warn against it. But the real story is far more complicated than most people realize. To understand alfalfa, we need to go back thousands of years, long before modern horse barns, commercial feed companies, or internet debates about nutrition. Historians believe alfalfa originated in parts of Western Asia and the Middle East, particularly around modern-day Iran and surrounding regions. Some evidence suggests it was already being cultivated nearly 5,000 years ago. Ancient Persian horsemen quickly realized something important about the plant. Horses fed alfalfa often appeared stronger, healthier, and more capable of enduring long travel and military campaigns. In a world where horses were essential for transportation, farming, trade, and warfare, that mattered enormously. The Persians are believed to have introduced alfalfa to other regions as their empires expanded. Eventually, the crop spread into Greece after Persian invasions and military contact during the ancient world. From there, alfalfa gradually moved across Europe. The Romans cultivated it, Arab cultures valued it, and Spanish settlers later carried it into the Americas. Over centuries, alfalfa slowly became one of the most important forage crops in agricultural history. In fact, the word alfalfa itself comes from the Arabic word alfaka, which roughly translates to father of all foods. Once you look at the plant's nutritional profile, you start to understand why ancient people gave it such a powerful name. Despite how often people compare alfalfa to Timothy hay or orchard grass, alfalfa is fundamentally different. Timothy is a grass. Orchard hay is a grass. Bermuda is a grass. Alfalfa, however, is a legume. And that distinction matters because legumes naturally contain different nutritional property than grasses. Alfalfa plants pull nitrogen from the soil through a symbiotic relationship with bacteria in their root systems. That process helps create the plant's unusually high protein content, which is one reason alfalfa became so valuable throughout history. Visually, alfalfa also looks different from most grass hays. It typically has leafy stems and small clustered leaves, rather than long blades of grass. When allowed to flower, alfalfa produces small purple blossoms that many people instantly recognize. Farmers harvest alfalfa multiple times per year depending on climate and growing conditions. And timing matters enormously. Young alfalfa plants are usually softer, leafier, and more nutrient dense, while older alfalfa can become stemmy, coarse, and less digestible. This is one reason hay quality varies so dramatically between farms and regions. Not all alfalfa is equal, and that becomes very important when feeding horses. As agriculture developed, people realized alfalfa could do something remarkable. It could provide enormous nutritional value in relatively small amounts. Animals fed alfalfa often maintained better body condition than animals fed poorer forage, developed muscle more easily, recovered faster from hard work, and frequently looked healthier overall. That made alfalfa especially valuable for working animals such as war horses, farm horses, and carriage horses. Eventually, it became increasingly popular for race horses and performance horses as well. As horse sports evolved, alfalfa became common in barns that needed high-calorie forage for horses in heavy work. One of the biggest challenges in horse management has always been maintaining body condition in animals burning tremendous amounts of energy. A top-level performance horse may travel constantly, train intensely, sweat heavily, and experience high levels of physical stress. For many of these horses, lower-calorie grass hay alone simply is not enough. And that is where alfalfa became incredibly useful. One of the biggest reasons alfalfa stands apart from grass hay is its nutrient density. Alfalfa typically contains higher protein, higher digestible energy, higher calcium, and more vitamins and minerals than many grass hays. In simple terms, alfalfa packs more nutrition into every bite. That is why growing foals, broodmares, senior horses struggling with weight, and elite performance horses are often fed alfalfa strategically. It can help support muscle development, improve body condition, and provide calories through forage rather than relying entirely on grain concentrates. But this is also where the controversy begins, because not every horse needs that level of nutrition. Feeding a horse more calories than it requires can create serious problems. One of the most common things horse owners say about alfalfa is that it makes horses hot. Almost every rider has heard someone say, "Do not feed alfalfa because it will make your horse crazy." Scientifically, however, the explanation is much more complicated than most barn myths suggest. Many people assume alfalfa is extremely high in sugar, but that is not always true. In fact, some alfalfa hays actually contain lower sugar levels than certain grass hays. So why do some horses become more energetic on alfalfa? Usually the answer comes down to total calorie intake. If a horse suddenly consumes significantly more digestible energy than before, that horse may naturally feel more powerful and energetic, especially if it is not working enough to burn those calories. Imagine feeding a lightly ridden horse the same diet as an upper-level competition horse. The horse may suddenly have excess energy because its nutritional intake no longer matches its workload. That does not necessarily mean alfalfa itself is dangerous. It simply means the horse may be overfed relative to its exercise level. And this is where understanding the individual horse becomes critical, because no two horses have identical nutritional needs. Interestingly, many elite barns rely on alfalfa far more than the average rider realizes. Dressage horses, show jumpers, eventers, race horses, reining horses, and endurance horses often require enormous calorie intake just to maintain healthy weight and muscle. These horses burn incredible amounts of energy through training, stress, travel, competition, and exercise. For some of them, grass hay alone simply cannot provide enough nutrition. Alfalfa helps fill that gap because its higher calorie and protein levels allows some horses to maintain condition without relying excessively on grain concentrates. This matters because modern equine nutrition increasingly emphasizes forage-first feeding programs. Horses evolved to graze almost constantly, and their digestive systems are designed for continuous fiber intake. Many nutritionists therefore prefer adding calories through forage whenever possible instead of dramatically increasing grain. That is one reason alfalfa became so important in performance horse nutrition, not because it is magical, but because it is efficient. One of the most interesting discussions surrounding alfalfa involves gastric ulcers. Equine gastric ulcer syndrome has become extremely common in horses, especially performance horses. Stress, travel, confinement, intense exercise, and high grain diets all contribute to ulcer risk. This is where alfalfa gained major attention among veterinarians and nutritionists. Alfalfa naturally contains buffering compounds, including calcium, that may temporarily help neutralize stomach acid. Some studies suggest that feeding alfalfa before exercise could help reduce acid splash inside the stomach. As a result, many riders began feeding small portions of alfalfa before training rides or competitions. However, alfalfa is not a miracle cure. Ulcer management still depends on turnout, stress reduction, proper feeding schedules, veterinary treatment, and overall diet. Still, alfalfa became an important tool in many ulcer management programs, and that significantly changed how many riders viewed the hay. One reason nutritionists carefully balance alfalfa diets is because of calcium. Alfalfa is naturally very high in calcium compared to phosphorus, and horses require both minerals in balance for healthy bone function and metabolism. If a horse consumes excessive calcium without appropriate phosphorus balance, nutritional issues can develop over time. That does not mean alfalfa is unsafe. It simply means balance matters. And honestly, that is one of the biggest truths in all equine nutrition. Very few feeds are automatically good or bad. The real question is how much is being fed, what type of horse is receiving it, and how it fits into the overall feeding program. Feeding a hard-keeping thoroughbred in intense competition is completely different from feeding an easy-keeping pony living mostly on pasture. Not all alfalfa hay looks the same. Some alfalfa is beautifully green, leafy, soft, and nutrient-rich, while other batches may be coarse, dusty, overmature, stemmy, or poorly cured. High-quality alfalfa usually smells fresh and slightly sweet, and the leaves contain much of the nutritional value. Excess dust or mold, however, can create serious respiratory risks for horses. This variability is one reason forage testing has become increasingly popular. Many owners now send hay samples to laboratories for precise nutritional analysis, instead of relying purely on visual appearance or barn myths. That allows diets to be balanced scientifically rather than emotionally. And honestly, that shift represents one of the biggest changes happening in the horse world today. More owners are beginning to move away from folklore and toward actual nutritional science. Today, alfalfa is no longer fed only as loose hay. Modern horse owners can also buy alfalfa pellets, compressed cubes, chopped forage, and mixed forage blends. These products help owners in areas where hay quality is inconsistent or storage space is limited. Older horses with dental issues may especially benefit from soaked alfalfa pellets or cubes because they are easier to chew. But management still matters. Any forage product fed improperly can create risks. Large dry cubes, for example, may require soaking dependent on the horse and situation. So while processed alfalfa products can be extremely useful, they still require thoughtful feeding practices. Part of alfalfa's controversy comes from how horse culture spreads information. Barn advice often gets passed down through generations. Never feed alfalfa. It makes horses crazy. It causes problems. And while personal experiences are real, anecdotal stories are not always the same as nutritional science. Horses blamed on an alfalfa were actually dealing with overfeeding, lack of exercise, poor balancing, sudden feed changes, or completely unrelated health problems. That does not mean every horse should eat large amounts of alfalfa. Some absolutely should not. Easy keepers, insulin-resistant horses, and certain metabolic horses may do better on lower-calorie forage. But the internet often turns nuanced nutrition into oversimplified fear. and alfalfa became one of the biggest examples of that phenomenon. So what is alfalfa hay? It is one of the oldest and most important forage crops in human history, a legume that originated thousands of years ago in the ancient Middle East and eventually spread across empires, continents, wars, and civilizations, before becoming one of the most common horse forages in the modern world. It is nutrient-dense, powerful, useful, and sometimes misunderstood. For some horses, alfalfa can be an incredible nutritional tool that supports healthy weight, muscle, development, digestive health, and performance. For others, it may simply provide more calories than necessary. That is why understanding the individual horse matters so much, because no feed is universally perfect for every horse, and no feed is universally dangerous either. The truth is that modern horse nutrition is becoming increasingly scientific. Owners today are learning more about forage analysis, digestive philosophy, ulcers, metabolic disease, and individualized feeding programs than ever before. And that shift matters because better nutrition does not just create better performance. It creates healthier horses, happier horses, and hopefully a more educated horse world overall. So, do you feed alfalfa hay? Has your experience with it been positive or negative? Let us know. And remember, I am not AI. If you listen closely, you can hear me breathing.